this latest dramatic development?
Yeah, so Buckingham Palace this time has released a statement regarding His Majesty the King's health. It reads, in common with thousands of men each year, the King has sought treatment for an enlarged prostate. His Majesty's condition is benign and he will attend hospital next week for a corrective procedure. The King's public engagements will be postponed for a short period of time. Now, I understand that the King was keen to share details of his diagnosis to ensure that other men who may be experiencing symptoms of an enlarged prostate can seek advice on the NHS website and from doctors as well. Of course, we have heard in the last couple of hours, haven't we, that the Princess of Wales has undergone abdominal surgery, which was planned here at the London clinic and will be in hospital for some time, 10 to 14 days it's expected, as well as a couple of months at least recovery, which means public engagements from her not expected until after Easter. From my understanding, the King is not expected to take that much time to recover, but the reason that Buckingham Palace, I understand, has chosen to announce this pretty much an hour or two after the Princess of Wales' announcement from Kensington Palace is that His Majesty did actually have a number of planned meetings and events at Dumfries House in Ayrshire tomorrow and Friday, and on doctors' advice those engagements have now had to be postponed. So that is why we have got quite such detail from Buckingham Palace on this medical diagnosis from the King this afternoon. It is incredibly rare that members of the royal family release details about their medical conditions. Of course, they are also private individuals and have a right to privacy when it comes to medical conditions. But I think it's significant that the King has decided to release his own medical diagnosis because he wants to encourage other men, perhaps his age or slightly younger, to get checked out if they are experiencing the same symptoms, which he is alluding to the fact that he has done so. So just to recap, the King is not in hospital at the moment, but he will be going into hospital for some planned treatment next week. Doctors have advised him to postpone engagements at Dumfries House in Ayrshire, which were planned for tomorrow and Friday. As for the Princess of Wales, who is in the building behind me recovering from abdominal surgery, she is expected to remain in hospital for 10 to 14 days, followed by a longer period of rest and recuperation at her home in Windsor. The Prince of Wales, Prince William, is expected to divide his time between the clinic here in central London by his wife's side, and of course looking after his 3 young children who are, as I understand it, still attending school.
Cameron, of course, you never choose when medical emergencies hit you, but both the King and the Princess, within a matter of a couple of hours, the announcements being made, it will concern fans of the royal family and the British public.
Yeah, I think it certainly will do. I can't remember a time in recent history where 2 members of the royal family have announced similar medical conditions which involve hospital treatment and hospital stays on the same day. But I think we have to remain cautious. Both operations, or both sets of treatment, as we understand it, were very much planned. This isn't an emergency admission to either hospital. The King is clearly well enough to stay at home for the time being as well. That treatment for an enlarged prostate is planned for next week, and the King saw it as an opportunity to encourage other men his age to seek treatment. As for the Princess of Wales, we're not expecting her to carry out any engagements in the near future. It appears her surgery appears to be a bit more complicated, or indeed more serious, or more time is needed to recover from that. But yeah, incredibly rare that this kind of thing would happen on the same day.
And Cameron, you're absolutely right to say I've done a lot of work around men's mental health, men's physical health. Men in particular very reluctant to go and see a doctor, and we know that prostate cancer is an increasing issue in British society, around the world in fact, as we age. So very progressive in one sense of the King to be so public about his medical condition, to perhaps encourage others to examine their own mortality and go and get checked out too.
Yeah, absolutely. If you remember back to 2022, where the late Queen was experiencing what Buckingham Palace described as episodic mobility issues, they would very, very rarely give us any more information when it came to the Queen Elizabeth II specific medical issue. I think it's significant that the King has chosen to tell the world essentially what his diagnosis is, and he sees this as his opportunity to encourage other men to get checked out as well, and in fact is encouraging men his age and slightly younger to go onto the NHS website and check out the symptoms for an enlarged prostate, so they too can go and seek treatment if necessary. Buckingham Palace has also made it very clear that the King's condition is benign, i.e. not cancerous. I understand that the Princess of Wales's abdominal surgery is also not related to cancer, so no alarm bells ringing there, and both sets of surgery are very much planned. But I must stress again, it's very rare that members of the royal family would talk about medical conditions if it wasn't absolutely necessary. But the King is our head of state, the Princess of Wales is our future Queen, so clearly there is a public interest in the health and well-being of two very senior members of the royal family.
Cameron Walker, thank you for that update. And I'm joined now by Angela Levin, Royal Commentator and Biographer. Angela, welcome to the show. It's a shame it's under such austere circumstances, but a fantastic point made there, I think, by Cameron. It's only last May, of course, that the King was had his coronation, and yet here he is now being so open about prostate treatment. This is not what the royal family historically have always done, is it? Two announcements in one day, a new openness, perhaps.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because usually they say it as they have done with Princess Catherine after the operation, to say everything is fine. They very rarely say anything beforehand. So I think that perhaps it's right that he wants to encourage men to see their doctor if they're concerned in any way and be properly looked after before it gets dangerous. And you really have to admire him for that. But, you know, he's a very healthy man. He eats well, he has lots of exercise, and he will be back very soon, I'm sure, you know, walking up the hills in Scotland.
And, you know, Angela, the more I think about this, it's just settling, it's just literally just sinking in. This has been announced live on television as I was on. This is just sinking in for me too. And we know how difficult it is to get men in particular to talk about their mental health. The royal family's done a huge amount of work around mental health, and now to be so open about things like this, that's a really, really noble thing to do, to put your own mortality out there, to put your own health out there, and to encourage the rest of us to think about our own situations.
Yeah, perhaps I better go and see the doctor because he's always seemed very healthy. That would be point of view, wouldn't it? But they do say that there's nothing wrong with it. I think that if there was, you know, because many men can have cancer of the prostrate, they wouldn't have announced it that way. They're probably very relieved that he has been told that it's not serious and there's no cancer. And so he feels comfortable to be able to say it. It's caution, but it's also open, isn't it?
Do you think this is marking a new period, almost of mortality, of humanity, of relatability that the royal family, I mean, historically we've always associated him with the stiff upper lip, with bottling things up, with being very private, and yet here we are, two announcements in one day. It can't be a coincidence.
No, I don't think it is a coincidence, and in a way it bounds them, doesn't it? But what's interesting is whether they'll need any counsellor of state to stand in for anybody during this time. I mean, if King Charles has an operation, he won't be able to do any duties for a while. And Prince William has said that he is not going to do almost everything is going to be wiped out, bar very serious things. And he wants to be with Catherine and also make sure that the children feel very relaxed. And so, you know, next in line in the people who are these counsellors is Harry, which makes you shiver. I think that The Queen is as well, but I doubt that she would necessarily want to take that burden so soon after the coronation. So we'll have to see. I don't think, I know who it will be. It will be Princess Anne. That's a person who will stand in. She's absolutely at the top, as she wasn't before. The Queen died, but now she is. So she's the one. We can all rely on her. She's jolly hard working and efficient and always there when she's needed. So that's a relief. I was getting worried about that.
Yeah, and Angela, of course, the princess. I mean, we're so used to see her bounding around in sportswear or army fatigues, an absolute picture of radiant, glowing health. And Charles, very active, always walking. Of course, he's knocking on a bit, as we all do, but always had a very healthy lifestyle. And so both these announcements have come as quite a shock.
They are a shock, actually. It shows that we're all don't know what's going to happen the next day of our lives, and so we must make the best of the day we have got. I mean, Catherine does a tremendous amount of sport. You know, she eats very well. She is very slim, but she is does an awful lot. But she might have one of these women's things. It's not up to me to say what they could be, but you know, these sort of things can occur, and they're take quite a while to recover from. I mean, it's said that she's not going to be doing any events or duties until Easter, which is April, isn't it, I think? So that's quite a long time. But of course, we wish her well, and we know that she needs to spend some time with her children as she gets better, because I think it's very scary for children to see their mummy not very well. And all sorts of things can come into them, especially they will remember about the Queen a little bit. So she will need to calm them, love them, be with them. And that's quite right that she puts that first. William, of course, will make sure that they understand that lots of people can get ill, like they get a bad cold or they get a cough, so that they won't worry too much. I think that's very important.
Okay.